Mariano, Mike, it's a real pleasure to have you here today. And I knew I wanted to invite you because a self-professed Italian from Rhode Island who had a love of IROC Z28s. When I was a kid, I worked in a Corvette customizing shop, and all we wanted to do was speed. So I could relate. So thank you very much for being here. Now, you have said too many people, too many companies get caught up, get lost in the details. What do you mean?
Yeah, I think a lot of companies start with the bits and bytes of Twitter or Facebook and get consumed by the need to implement, the need to tweet and I think they become intimidated by not really understanding what I think of as the plumbing of social marketing. And really the right place to start is from a perspective of first relationships, which everyone understands. I mean, good business is personal. There's this, what I think of as a very Italian sensibility around, you do for me, I do for you. And that's really the currency of social media. That's the right place to begin. And of course, what we do for each other through social media is provide content. I heard someone say that Twitter has made us all kind of, microprocessors in a giant global network. We're all capturing information, processing it, and passing it on to other people who might be interested in it. And I think that's a really great way to think about social, and to be involved in it effectively is to figure out what kind of information you're going to process and the kinds of people that you're going to add value to downstream.
Do you have to be a super geek?
You don't. I think you just have to be someone who's interested in engaging with other people. I actually think the sort of geek era of hardcore geek era of social marketing has sort of come and gone. And as Laura said, I think we're moving to a place where it's absolutely ubiquitous. And between the sort of hardcore geeks and that point, I think more and more business people are seeing it as a critical tool, not only of branding in their enterprise, but as a vehicle for personal branding and developing their own careers.
Okay. Thank you so much. I do appreciate it. We'll get back to you as well. Our next panelist, Seth Pribach, and he is the first chief ninja I've ever met. The chief ninja of his company, and he is the CEO, chief ninja of Scavenger and Level Up. And Seth, it's great to see you. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. I interviewed Seth back in March and knew exactly I wanted to invite him at that point because he's a brilliant guy, and this company is growing tremendously. Tell me about your company, and the people in your company have grown Scavenger tremendously quick. Tell me about the company and how you are building this community.
Sure. So the very quick summary of what Scavenger is one sentence. We're trying to build a game layer on top of the world. And that's kind of a foreign concept. It's something new, but it's an offshoot of what social means. So social and the social layer, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Flickr, is about connecting people. It's about social connections. It's about what we say and how we say it to our friends, to our families, to our colleagues. The next iteration of that is all about motivation. It's what we call the game layer. It's about taking game mechanics that motivate behavior in virtual worlds, World of Warcraft, Farmville, even down to board games, and actually moving them into the real world so that we can take social, which is an incredibly unstructured thing, something where the customer is in control, something where you as a business might not have control, and start to build mechanics around it that can motivate behavior, to bring them into the store, to get them to explore certain things, to get them to share with their friends, to make it more fun, more engaging, more rewarding. And so we started this. I started this when I was at Princeton, dropped out because that was sort of the cool thing to do at the time, and still the cool thing to do, I think. And we've been based here in Boston, and Scavenger's been around as we know it for about a year and a month now. We're something like 80 people. We had 30 people join us last Monday, all on the same day. So it's been a whirlwind. Actually, that's a bunch of them there. So. That's what we're up to. It's about game mechanics.
Tell me about the companies that are joining you. Do they feel that engagement?
Absolutely. So we've got about several thousand local businesses building on Scavenger and on Level Up. At the moment, we've got something like 3,500 brands and what I would consider to be large enterprises, Fortune 500, Fortune 1000. We just launched yesterday what will be the largest location-based campaign ever with Coca-Cola. They're this like brown fizzy drink that's very popular in certain countries. And what they saw with their first campaign, they ran a test campaign with us in December, was they were able to create something like 15 minutes of engaged play at malls all across the country, tapping into the teen market. And that's something they'd never seen before. It moved from being impressions to engagement, and the brand power that you can get out of that is just really phenomenal.
Excellent. Seth, it's just a real pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much. Now, I do want to open this up to questions. If you have a question, raise your hand, because that's what this is all about. And we'll have a microphone. We have microphones here. We have microphones there. We have some hands already up. And we'll go right to your questions as soon as I get a microphone there. We're on the right side of the room. Do we have a question over here? Do I see one? No? Okay. And we will continue. Okay. Just show me where the microphones are. And there's one here, and there's one where? I would imagine, how many people own a business in this room? Raise your hand. How many people were sent by your boss who said, I don't understand this stuff, you go? Ah, I knew it. And how many people are here reluctantly? Raise your hand. Ah, there are a few of you too. Okay. So I do want questions from you, because I want to go through this quickly and cover as many questions as we can. And I promise you, when we come up to the 10 o'clock hour, you'll be thinking, why didn't I raise my hand sooner? So we have a question right here. Would you please stand, and your name and city, please, and ask us a question.
Hi, I'm Alex Tambasio. I'm here because we're all connected, right? So I found this on Twitter.
Great.
A couple of years ago, I'm on the Neighborhood Advisory Council for the Boston Police Department, and we give suggestions for neighborhood communication. That's the whole premise behind these organizations, so that we can give the elderly the news up to date quickly, etc. One of the things that I do is I give them some advice on the website for the Boston Police Department. Pretty gross. They're saying, how do we get people there? I said, turn it into something like Mafia Wars, because I cannot turn that off, right? So I get off Mafia Wars, but my daughter and son see it, and they find something like Penguin and these other things to do the same thing. So the mechanics of getting people motivated is the key. How do you get that into the public service space outside of the private space? The private space, we want to make money. But from a public service perspective, the Boston Police Department, the news, or other agencies, that's where you got to have, or that's where you can have a huge impact.
You want to try that?
Yes.
Seth,
So I'll jump into this first. And first off, I totally agree with you, and I think that turning the police department homepage into Mafia Wars would be awesome. So I hope they're taking that seriously. But one of the points that we try and make at Scavenger all the time, and especially with some of the things we do with pilots that we're running like Level Up, with some of the campaigns we run, is that while we focus a lot on the private sector, on local businesses, on some things in the public sector, a lot on universities and museums, that the power of game mechanics goes a lot beyond that, and a lot beyond that in ways that we as a company aren't taking full advantage of yet. One of the best examples of this that I've seen is in some of the work that Jane McGonigal has done. She's a game designer, an incredible person. She's just written a new book called Reality is Broken, which if you're into this type of thing, you should read. And she talks about how game mechanics can be used to really create change for good, can be used to motivate huge groups of people to solve tough problems very, very quickly. And one of the games that I played recently to try and demonstrate some of this was down at South by Southwest. I got the opportunity to give a presentation there, sort of to a room like this, but there were maybe 2,000 or 3,000 people in the room. And we set up a quick game with very simple rules. Everyone had a colored card. They were all seated in rows. And we gave people 90 seconds to try and organize all of those colored cards to be the same color in each row. And across 3,000 people, no organization, no anything, with the prize being that if they won, if they did it in 90 seconds, we'd donate $10,000. Scavenger would donate $10,000 to the National Wildlife Federation. And what we saw was instantly, it took them something like 45 seconds, they organized an entire room, mini stock market set up to trade cards back and forth, huge organization, decentralized leadership, with two really simple mechanics, communal gameplay and a clear reward mechanic. And we've seen that type of stuff really solve big problems quickly. So I would love to talk with you more about it after. More power to you, and I think it'll really work.
Paul.
I'll tell you a story about a company that I actually profiled in my second book called Fiskars, which makes cutting tools. They started a community about 3 years ago called the Fiskateers, which was intended to organize crafters, people who are enthusiastic about crafters. As you know, those people are a little nuts. And they're crazy about crafting, and they thought they'd have maybe 300 people in this community. Last I checked, they were over 6,000 members. And what happened is it changed the company completely, because the engineers who developed these products began tuning in not only to the virtual community but also to the physical events that they'd have where they bring these people together around the country, even around the world, the engineers wanted to go to these meetings because they had a chance to meet with the customers. But the point is, this is a 275-year-old company, by the way, that was completely transformed by the internet. When your people who are on the front lines actually engage with the people that they are serving in a public service or in a private business, it's enormously energizing. I mean, they just get juiced by this feedback and the seeing how people are using the products that they produce or the services that they provide. So I think you find it becomes self-fulfilling. Once you get a few people in contact, actually engaging with the communities they serve, then everybody wants to jump in the pool.
Yes, Laura.
I also want to point out something between those two answers. How many of you in this room have an emotional connection to a brand? Like a strong emotional connection to a brand, okay? How many of you in this room have a strong emotional connection to your friends, families, and neighbors? Okay, so a strong emotional connection to a brand this room was pretty good at it, probably because you're all talking about your own businesses, right? A strong emotional connection to a brand is a relatively rare thing, and yet all these companies run around, I got to get them to come to my page, fan me, like me, like me. Bullshit. You need to get them to connect to each other. Human love is the stickiest thing ever invented. They will come back again and again to meet the people they have met in the context of your brand. And that's why those two stories worked, and that's what the neighborhoods need to do.
I think that's a great point, and the question then becomes, how do you attract the first set of people into the environment? And we've talked a little bit about games and about the relationships that sustain these communities over time. I would just add to that the importance of maintaining some level of destination content that's worthy of attention. You know, we all felt compelled to go out on the web and develop some kind of a web presence because that's what we had to do. And now a few years on, most of us find we're the sort of czars of these little, content museums on the web. I haven't been to the police department website that the gentleman referred to, but I bet a lot of it hasn't changed a lot, or a lot of it isn't dynamic. And so I think part of the currency of initiating the kinds of virtuous cycles that we've described on the panel is to begin by delivering content of value to whatever constituency you're trying to serve. That starts the ball rolling in a way that starts to build the effects that we've described.
And by the way, if you want to see a great example in public service right here in this state, the Massachusetts Department of Transportation I think it's called the Department of Transportation now, they merged some departments recently, is doing a fantastic job with social media. They're using all these different tools. They're using Flickr to update people on construction projects. They're tweeting. They're blogging. They're using YouTube.
They're telling you the trains are late.
Tell them the trains are late.
It's called MassDOT now.
It's called what?
MassDOT.
MassDOT, right.
MassDOT.
Great example of social media in public service.
Do you have another question?